Okay, we started to lay down the 3/8 inch plywood. And what we've done is we've drawn and put chalk lines down the lines. And these guys are marking, or have a board marked with every foot on the board, lining it up with the chalk lines, and slamming down screws into the board. We're just using 2-inch deck screws to screw it into the boards. And we'll just keep laying out the first layer of boards, 3/8 inch, and then we'll work to the next layer. Got the first layer on. Go ahead, drop in, Chad. Chad's dropping in. We only got one layer of it. We wanted to try it, just for fun. Hey, do you want me to see it? Get you on video, busting your ass, Nate? I'll put it on my YouTube. I guarantee he's gonna eat it. He's not going. Not bad. Okay, the guys are bolting down the second layer. We staggered the layers a little bit so that we didn't have any two seams in the same place. We got the boys putting it down. So we got the beginnings of the second layer over there. And these guys, we got this one's marked and screwing it down on that place. And as you can see, the whole ramp is starting to come together to be like a real ramp. Okay, we're getting ready to put on the final layer. We have the two first layers of 3/8 inch ply down already. And we have lined up the screws along with all joists and got it all lined up to the pipe. We have about a 1/16 of an inch spacing whenever we can in between the boards to allow expansion and contraction. And now we're going to put on the final layer. Now, the best that I could find for a final layer is a 1/4 inch ply. This is a sheet that's actually the outer layer, outer veneer, is actually made of oak, which is really nice and hard. The problem will be whether or not I'm going to have a problem when I put screws in it from the wood splitting. So I might have to countersink the screws with a countersink drill to make sure it sits nice and flat and doesn't split. But I think we'll leave it with a really hard, fast surface. The whole ramp is going to be painted afterwards, so it doesn't really make a difference what the top layer of wood is, because it's all going to be protected by multiple layers of gray floor paint. Okay, so here we go. One last look at the second layer that's down on the ramp, and we're getting ready to throw down the third. Okay, we're finishing off the left layer, the 1/4 inch ply at the very top. We're putting in the last section. But I'm trying to use pennies at each intersection of the boards here, and I put the pennies in between the boards to make sure that I have a 1/16 of an inch margin between all the boards. Some of the boards have a little bit more than 1/16 of an inch because both the boards are not perfectly shaped at 4x8, and the ramp, of course, has got some variations. If it's off square just a little bit, that's why it's so important while you're building the transitions to make them perfectly square. So we just got one final board to put in for the 4x8 1/4 inch sheeting. Tack it down and then complete the screws. Okay, well, we just tacked down the final layer. I haven't finished putting all the screws in. We're going to mark the joist with a chalk line and then put the joist down. But of course, these guys couldn't wait. They had to ride it before we had it all screwed down because they wanted to see what it felt like. But so anyway, we got all the final layer down. We're just going to mark our joist lines and mark it out. But it all looks pretty good. You can see the layers where they mark here at the end of the pipe. And down and across. Leaving just small 1/16 to an 1/8 of an inch in between each one of the 4x8 sheets. Putting the screws in the final layer. As you can see on this side over here, the transition, I've got the screws in place. And what I did to make sure that I aligned the screws, they didn't screw into previous screws, I marked on the pipe at the top the lines where the first two layers were. So the first two layers, you know, layer 1 was here, layer 2 was here, and it goes down the line. Layer 1, layer 2, layer 1, layer 2, down the line. I marked that on the pipe. Then I come back to my board and I mark on the board where I want the final layer to go. And that's why I got a final mark. So I make sure that's about 8 inches apart while missing the previous screw areas. so that I don't put a screw over a screw, and I mark that all the way down. So then I take the marks, and then I make my screws all the way down the line, and I put them in. And on the final layer, the ribs are 8 inches apart, and I got the screws approximately 8 inches apart for the most part, and it makes for a nice solid screwed down ramp. Now all I need to do is finish up on these middle sections. The next thing I'm going to do is do this, the other transition on the other side. In order to make the entire skating surface waterproof, and so that it doesn't leak down to the layers below when the ramp does get wet, I am sealing the cracks in between the ramps, the 1/16 of an inch gap that I left open for expansion and contraction, with a latex caulk that'll work well with the flooring paint that I'm going to put on afterwards. Time will tell whether or not this is effective, whether or not it keeps the water from leaking down to the bottom 2 layers of 3/8 inch plywood and protects it from the elements. Okay, as you can see, I also sealed. As you can see, I put some caulk in all the cracks, both at the top of the pipe to seal in the 1/4 inch plywood from getting moisture. After I paint it, it would be nicely sealed. I also filled in all the cracks and screw holes that were left because I hit another screw head, ripped and left a hole in the top. So I went and sealed all the cracks all the way around the ramp with the premium grade acrylic caulk, and then we're going to put the floor paint over top of this, and this will help seal the ramp from water intrusion down to the bottom 2 layers of plywood, and keep the ramp protected from the elements, so it'll last a lot longer. As you can see, I've done that to the whole ramp, filled in all the cracks, including both pipes. You're getting closer to see. Put it in there nice and clean. You put the caulk in, then you got to come along with a sponge afterwards and wipe off the excess caulk, because I didn't want the caulk on the wood itself. I only wanted it in the cracks, so it'll help seal when the paint goes on.